tapping into something that after being on this planet for 44 years that I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize that that was there. And that's the beautiful thing about and being able to tell a story and you're understanding life through the eyes of another. You do what you're passionate about and you put the work out there and it's going to reach who it's supposed to reach.
Hello and welcome back to the Rendered Hope podcast. This is your host, Philip Carroll, and I'm so excited to be back with you for another Monday episode. Today I have a special guest with us. Her name is Taneisha Upperman. She is a mother, she is a wife, she is a singer, she is a writer, she is a minister, and so many other things. Today you're going to hear about a little of her creative process, how she balances her life with her passions and her responsibilities and her job, and just some of the things she's learned over the years when it comes to expressing creativity, expressing how she goes about, activating her passions and really growing from that place. We talk about these things and what I really hope for you to get out of this episode is it's never too late to try something new. It's never too late. You're never too far gone. And it's never too bad of a situation for you to begin to activate your passions, to activate your talents, to set a plan for yourself. Because you're going to hear about how she has had so many ideas over the years and how all of a sudden she's beginning to really go after them and really pursue these dreams and at the same time manage her time and balance things like family and work. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Taneisha Upperman. It's so good to be talking to you today, and just this episode that we're going to be recording was very exciting for me just because of how much you do and the things that you do, and even in the creative efforts that you do and try to do, and really balancing that with things like your family and ministry and work and personal life and social life. So for those who don't know you, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Taneisha Upperman. I am a wife and a mom, and also very active in ministry. I attend Nova Hub, where I'm ordained as an elder. Um, also, work for the Army Corps of Engineers. So I work for the government, and I've been there for about almost 15, over 15 years, actually, working for the government as well. Um, yeah, I don't know much more what you want to hear, but I think I'm a wife and a mom, and I love the Lord. Yeah.
Awesome. So part of what I wanted to talk to you about today is just the fact that you are such a creative person. You have projects that you put out, you have projects that you want to put out, and different avenues of expression, be it through audio content, through written content, and just the way you live your life, and mixing that with, again, the busyness of having children, two who have gone through high school and one who's currently going through high school, and even just your job, um, and even, again, as you mentioned, your life in ministry. And a large part of what I want to talk about in this episode is just this idea of not only being able to express yourself creatively, but how to find yourself and not lose yourself in the process, whether
Mm,
that's through proper balance or really
yeah.
prioritization, or learning where to really put your time and your focus on any given day. Because I think so often when we come into this place of creativity where we try to express ourselves, but also deliver, not just for other people, but for ourselves, to really capitalize on our potential, it can become so overwhelming because
Yeah.
we don't know where to put our time and where to put our focus, and how much we need to redirect to spend time with our family and friends. So for you in that effort, what has some of that looked like for you, and what have you learned, not just about the process, but about yourself?
Well, I'll say that I mean, first off, I've not been perfect in this area of my life, and I've had to learn really through going through the process what to do and what not to do, um, especially in the beginning, because there was a time where I was a single mom and a creative also, and working and trying to balance it all. And so it wasn't always the easiest thing. And so the one thing that I had to keep at the forefront of my mind is that, you know, the reason I'm doing this, the why, and also understanding that it all doesn't have to be accomplished, in one day. Rome wasn't built in a day. And also that, my kids, my family, they come first. And I didn't always do that the right way. I would say there were times when I would even say within the last year or two where I was just really consumed with trying to get everything out and trying to do everything. And we had a moment where my son, he really felt like, Mom, I really need you more, and you weren't there. And so I had to even readjust recently to say, okay, I have to make sure that I don't focus so much on this area because I feel like I have to, attain some task like super fast, that I miss out on this thing because this right here is important. And this right here, my son has, like, he's in his senior year, going into senior year, and he's not always going to be here. And so this is precious right now, but I can always tap into that creative side and go there. So I mean, even now, like I said, I'm learning the balance and learning how to navigate and really keep things in the right place. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I feel like I rambled a bit, but I don't
No,
know if
you're
that,
good.
yeah,
I think it's so important because I know this episode, both now and in the future, is going to appeal to a lot of people who are looking for avenues of expression. They're
yeah,
looking to, as I said, capitalize on their potential, whether that's through song, through video, through graphic design, any sort of hobby and any sort of passion they might have. And for you, I know it's been such a long process
yeah.
of perfecting, right? We know that we're not perfect, but we desire for the things that we produce and the things that we try to put our time into, for those things to be done with excellence. And even in the release of your first project, as we come upon a year since the release, and looking forward to the things that you want to do, without getting too deep into what they are, you know, at what point did you really have to accept that it's going to be what it's going to be? Because I know for me, there's always that contention of, I could do this, but it might be better later, or is this how I want it to be? Um, but at the same time, when we have such little time, we really just have to go with the best that we can do at that time.
Hmm.
For you, even in the creation of your music and things like that, at what point did you really become comfortable with, this is the finished project, this is how it's going to be, and maybe next time if I feel like I can do better, I'll do better?
I think when I came to the conclusion that I gave it my best, I really, we really did our best. And I looked at the quality of the work and really just kind of didn't compare it against anything else, anybody else's thing. But I, really kind of asked myself, did you put your all? Did you give it everything you got? And once I knew that I did, I was like, okay, then we're going to put this out. Um, were there things afterwards that I was like, oh, I could have done that? Yeah, of course. But I knew at the time that we like really put our all to make, put our all into the project to make sure that it was done in excellence. And, also seeing the feedback from the people, and just seeing, I was like, okay, yeah, we did a good job. And so I was able to kind of really be content once I realized that I really gave it my all, and I worked my butt off. We put a lot of just time and all of that into it to make it what it is. And so once I realized that, then I kind of let it go. And I'm like, okay, it'll be what it'll be. Lord, turn my water into wine. You do what needs to be done with this. You allow it to reach whoever you need it to reach.
It was
Yeah.
so awesome to see, because I remember even just when it was an idea, and then it turned into
Yeah.
the planning, and then it turned into the practice, and then the execution, and even the months afterwards of development until release. Just seeing the mindset that you had,
Mhm.
and even after the work had been done, how much you desired to have it be a delivered product for such a good reason, right? Not just so that you could be famous, not just so that you could have
Oh yeah.
this type of notoriety, but where does that come from? I've looking back on your life from a creative lens and just the different seasons of your life when it comes to, you know, maybe you want to do this, but then, because we get so many ideas in our heads of what we want to produce, but
Hmm.
sometimes they stick and sometimes they don't. So, as you look back on the things that you've done or the experiences that you've had, what are some of the motivations and inspirations that you hold on to when it comes to producing content and expressing creativity?
Ooh, I think with that, I do my best to kind of see, like, okay, God, is this? Ask that question one more time. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I answer it the right way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
How? Let me rephrase it. How do
Yeah.
you draw on, and what are some of the motivating factors and the experiences that you've had, both in your life, but also mostly from a creative standpoint, that push you forward in terms of the desire to create, to produce, and to be a blessing in that way to the general public?
Yeah, I think I just kind of pull on and motivated. Like I see it in my mind. Like I see this finished product and I see what it could do. And then even also like it's just weird. I am weird and I'm okay with that. Because weird is the new cool. But in my brain, I just begin to the story starts to get told in my head. And I'm like laughing and I'm like, okay, this is good. And so I hear it and see it first. And once I hear it and see it, and I it's just a feeling you get when you're like, wow, this is going to be really good, and that kind of pushes me to work hard, and that pushes me even in those moments where I'm like, I don't even know if I feel like doing this anymore. I just remember that feeling I got in the beginning, that feeling I get when I see the finished product and when I see, it touching the doing the exact thing that I saw it doing. And so that's kind of what I move from when I'm working, and that's what I move from when I'm actually in the middle, smack dab in the middle of it, because I think that's the time where it gets hardest, and it's also the time where we can like really begin to move in doubt and wonder, okay, is this really going to be what I thought it was going to be? It's just really going back to that first thought, going back to that first feeling you received or you felt when you initially thought of the idea, that excitement. And I also surround myself with people like you, and people like my husband that can really kind of encourage and remind me of that why. Just remind me of the reason I chose to do this in the first place. And so I kind of move from that thing. Did that answer that question?
For sure.
Yeah.
Something that I thought about, and I didn't tell you we were going to talk about this,
Oh
but
Lord.
when it comes to creating content, there's such a sphere within the Christian bubble, that says that your work needs to reflect your beliefs at every turn, right? We see this more so specifically in music, but something that I've loved about reading the things that you've written is you've learned how to implement elements without making it a religious piece of art, you
Yeah.
know, where you're expressing real life, and not just this fantasy where everything is good
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything is family friendly, down to the 5 year old.
Hmm.
Um, in your mind, and I don't know if this is something that you've thought about to an extent, but in your mind, when it comes to creation and the things that we produce, how do you go about the process of implementing real life with hints of your beliefs without compromising too much in one way or the other? Let me know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like my life follows my beliefs, and the stories that I write, the life of it follows everything I believe in, and so it's not going to contradict or go against what. Now there's going. I mean, you've read some of what I've written, so there's some language in there that really shows life and shows what people have to go through. And so I just want to like really describe the real human experience. But at the end of the day, it follows, everything I believe in, and it follows kind of that pattern. And so I try not to get too caught up on, I feel like what I write doesn't, none of it contradicts who I am. Um, but it really just gives the reality of the lives of people, and that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about storytelling, and being able to tell a story, and you're understanding life through the eyes of another, or the perspective of another human being. And so I, kind of follow that. So there may be some times in there where there's something that is like, oh wow, they said that or they talk like that. Yeah, because there are people out there, believe it or not, that aren't you. They're not, saved, filled with the Holy Spirit, and so they talk like this. And so I want you to be able to understand the why and really get an understanding of where that person comes from, understand their trauma, understand their pain, and really kind of take that journey with them to get them to the other side. And in order for me to do that, it's not always going to be pretty, but that's kind of the reality of just life. It's not always pretty. And so I've never, well, I think I did in the beginning, but now I don't really struggle with that, because I feel like we have to get down to the nitty gritty in order for you to understand the character, understand the person in the story.
Right. And I think so often we almost handcuff ourselves when it comes
Yeah,
to that place of creativity, where we feel pressured, and even though we desire to implement a little more emotion, or because at the end of the day, we're not writing as ourselves. We're
right.
not projecting the way we act or the way we behave, but we're trying to really give an internalization, or even outward expression to these characters.
Yeah, yeah,
And it almost puts this unrealistic spin when we try to project religious dogmatic beliefs upon
right.
these fictional characters.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I think as a viewer or as a reader, sometimes we try to put the artist or the author in this box where they
mm-hmm.
need to conform to what I want to read right now or what I
Yeah,
want to listen to right now. And at the end of the day, as you said, that isn't necessarily the best way to display real life, right?
yeah,
Because we
yeah,
all have our thoughts, we all have our emotions, we all have our moments. And sometimes it almost feels like you can't um, adequately go about that in a storytelling sense. So
mm-hmm.
again, what I really admire about your writing is not just that it's, you know, not that it's not so far out of the box where it's just something that's vile, but it shows life at a intimate, personal level
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
eyes of a person that's living a life.
mm-hmm.
And something that I'm really looking forward to as you continue to write these books and produce these stories is this idea that we can have fiction that's not, magic and war and adventure, but really just like that slice of life aspect of this is what it is to be real.
Yeah,
um, when it
yeah.
comes to your creative tastes and even just your job and the way you operate within your family, what are some things you've learned, not just from, again, not from a creative angle, but just about yourself? Tell us a little bit about who Taneisha is, over the last couple of years in your efforts to really balance those things as you discuss, with your son, and learning to spend more time in those places. What are some things that have surprised you about yourself?
I think the one thing, that is still like just surprising me is just the depth of who I am, and learning. I'm 44 years old, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize that was the quirkiness, or tapping into something that after being on this planet for 44 years, that I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize that that was there, and being able to not only tap into that but to use it. for not only my benefit, but the benefit of my family, the benefit of everybody that comes encounters me. And so that's it's been really interesting just learning Taneisha in these last few years. I think the Lord has kind of taken me on this journey where, the Bible talks about loving the Lord with all your heart and your soul, your mind, and your strength, and loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And so He's really starting to teach me like who I am, and teaching me like really the depths of who I am. It's really starting to just cause a joy inside of me, and really affecting everyone that even comes in contact with me. And so, if you knew me, people that knew me years ago, they kind of look at me now and they're like, who is this? And so that's one thing. As far as my family, things have happened so much. I have a daughter that's gotten married in the last 2 years. My son is in high school, like you said. Things have just been transitioning, and so I'm moving from that mom that was very hands on to now almost being an empty nester. And so it's just the transit, and then also becoming a grandmother, and so really relearning who I am in this season is it's beautiful. It's had some challenging moments, but for the most part, it's kind of been a really great journey, especially within, like I said, the last couple of years. Yeah.
I think what's so special about that, if we take your life, and just from what I've seen, but even you mentioned earlier being a single mother of three, and
Yeah.
going from that to getting married, to having a child get married and have give you a grandchild, and
Hmm.
another one going into college, and another one really discovering herself. I think from a when we're younger and we're getting into our late teens or early 20s, we have almost this image in our mind of who we're going to be and what we're going to do. And, by the time I'm a grandparent, you would think that you'll be done developing, you'll be done growing,
Oh,
you'll be done transitioning. But, even from your point of view, it's like you've really, in those times where you would think you're done changing and transitioning and learning, that's really where you've learned the most.
yeah.
you
And you
know
start feeling
even
the growth.
your role even your role going from an independent single mother to a co-laborer in a marriage, to now releasing children, in 10 years, going from they can't stay at home by themselves to now they're going off by themselves. And it's, I think you've handled that so well, in terms of not just transitioning in how you grow with them, but also just growing in yourself to begin not only working, but again creating and producing, and still learning to love deeply,
Yeah.
especially with the work of the ministry continuing to grow, and responsibilities at work continuing to grow. I think it's been awesome to really see the way that you've not only taken that on, but you've
Hmm.
adopted those things into your life. Because I think so often we can be so resistant to change, and we can be so resistant to new things,
Yeah.
right? Even as you continue to do those things, it's awesome to see just your acknowledgement of those areas that you've grown in, and you've walked in.
Yeah.
Um, as you look forward, I've referenced a few times these new creative endeavors that you're working on. But as you
Hmm.
look forward, what are some of the things that you would like to do, you know, in the next couple of
Oh,
years? Let's say you look back on this episode,
yeah.
and you're speaking to yourself, or projecting, because I think sometimes it can be so easy to, you talked about having a picture in your mind of the finished product.
Yeah.
So just dreaming out loud, what are some of those things that you are confident in for your creative career?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it. And I was actually, it's so funny. I was in prayer this morning, and it was one of the things I was just talking to him about. But I would love to do like write out fictional podcasts, and that be the thing. My my job, just writing out stories and just putting it out there for other people to enjoy. And then apart from that, turning those fictional podcasts into movies or into TV shows, being able to, if it's not me, being able to work alongside someone who is already out there and have it on the big screen, and and then of course musically, I still have a desire. It's kind of getting a little smaller as time progresses, but I still have a desire to put out another music project and continue even to work in that. I don't know if I want to do the traveling and the touring. I feel like I love my house. I love being able to chill, and so I don't know if I want to do all of that. But being able to just put out good music, put out music that really blesses the kingdom. That's my lane. As far as my music, that's always going to be for the kingdom. It's always going to be, gospel centered. And so being able to work in that arena, and so that's kind of not kind of that's what I really am focused on right now, getting all of that, especially like I said, the fictional podcast, because I don't see a lot out. I've been looking and looking. I'm like, there's really nothing out there like this right now. And I want to, Lord, I want to be the first one or be one of the first ones to kind of pioneer in that area and get it out there so that people have stories they can listen to. So yeah, that's kind of the goal right now. I'm hoping that it goes the way I see it. Yeah.
Right. We've spoken a lot about these podcasts, these
Yeah.
audio dramas that are literary pieces, but they're converted to audio for those who are commuting, for those who are at the house, for those
Yeah.
who just want an alternative
Mhm.
that's not, again, just to say trashy or vile or just so far out there. Because I think it's becoming such a popular medium of entertainment
It is. Yeah.
to create audio dramas. And I know for you that's something that you've been researching and thinking about for quite a long time. And I'm
Yeah.
excited as you continue to dream about these things and as you produce this content that we're definitely going to have you on here to talk about those projects.
Yeah. That'll be
Um,
interesting.
and you mentioned musical projects, and I alluded to it a little bit ago in this interview. But you are coming up on a year. You're about
I
11 months since the release of your debut EP. Which, look,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this on YouTube, on
Go.
Spotify, I'm going to leave the links. You can follow her on Instagram. You can listen to her music on repeat and just show her some love. Leave a rating, leave a thumbs up, because it's important. When we find these content creators who have a positive message, who have a positive attitude, who have a positive desire with their intentions, that we not only show support, but we help consume the content, because that's how we push it up the charts. That's how we push it up the algorithm. And even in your written content, you know I think it's so important to understand, and this, but for those who are listening, if you desire to produce content or create music or write books or even script TV shows and movies, that it's not always going to be the easiest process in terms of getting started, in terms of
Yeah.
of getting used to this medium. So as we begin to wind down a little bit, what are some of the things that helped you as you wrote your first project? Even in the early stages of writing your book, because I'm sure there were moments where you felt discouraged, like you felt like you were wasting your time, and so this is for those who are listening who might be in that place. What are some things you would share with them?
The one thing that I had to keep at the forefront of my mind is you do what you're passionate about, and you put the work out there, and it's going to reach who it's supposed to reach. Who it reaches is totally, I just kind of leave that to God. And I just put it out there. And it takes the pressure off of me also, in a sense, because I'm not like, I don't know the last time I went on Spotify, YouTube, or anything to see how many people have been listening. I just had to take that out of my brain. It doesn't matter. I did what I knew I was supposed to do. I put it out there, and it'll reach, 20 years down the road, it's going to reach who it's supposed to reach. It's going to speak to who it's supposed to speak to. And so my job is just to release what God has put in me, release the gift that God has put in me, and not keep it hidden. And so having that at the forefront of your brain, it doesn't matter who listens to it. It doesn't matter how many people, it, I know that it's whoever is supposed to listen to it is going to listen to it. I'm just going to release what he's given me to release and keep it at that and take the pressure off for anything else. And so, I mean, I would encourage you, for those of you, I mean, we have so many avenues now to release content, to get our stuff out there. It's not like it used to be back in the day when I was, a young adult, and we had to go through so much just to record. But now you can record from the comfort of your home. You can type and release a book in a matter of a month if you want. I mean, you just have to upload it, and that's it. And so just release what it is that he's telling you to release, and then allow him to be in charge of the rest. And you
Right.
have
I
to
think
do
what's
it
so
so of passion. I'm sorry, you have to do it from a place
no,
of
no, you're
passion.
good.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
and I had to also, and I had to learn this. Like, I'm not doing this to just get, I don't care about the money. And I know some of us, that's kind of the leading factor. I took that, like, that's not the leading factor for me. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get something or get some money or become famous and become. I'm simply doing this because I'm passionate about it. I love, love, love doing it, and I have to let it out there. And that's the sole reason behind me doing it. And I, of course, if the money comes, that'll be amazing. You know what I'm saying? But that's not at the forefront of my brain. That's not leading my decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's so wonderful about the modern day content creation is you
Mhm.
don't need to have a record deal. You don't need to have a
Oh,
publisher. You just have to make a YouTube channel. You just got to make a Spotify account. You just got to make upload something from your Word document. And that's all you got to do. And
yeah.
people who like it will like it. And the
I
people who
like it.
don't will just move on.
Yeah.
And just understand for those creating content, for those producing things from creative avenues, is just know your audience and figure out who that is and create things that you enjoy, and then if you enjoy it, they'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So they heard me say it, but just for again, out of your mouth, could you just let the people know how they could find you?
You can go to Instagram. Taneisha Taneisha Up, I think is my name on Instagram. You can go on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes Music, any like outlet out there, musical outlet, and just look for Taneisha Upperman. And you can find all my music, and then of course be on the lookout for some other stuff that's going to be released pretty soon. But for now, go and follow me on Instagram.
Awesome. So again, that'll all be in the description. You can go
Mhm.
ahead and find that. Give her a follow. Give me a follow. Give this show a
Yes,
thumbs up and leave some comments. I'll redirect her to the comments both on YouTube and Spotify. Let her know you're supporting her and that you're interested. And I'm sure she'll at least read them, if not respond to some of them. And if you guys all like her, then I'll definitely have her on again in the near future. And with that said, Tanisha, thank you again for coming on. It's been a pleasure
having me.
speaking to you today,
Ah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. There you have it. Thank you so much, Tanisha, for joining me on this episode of the Rendered Hope podcast. I'm going to be keeping a special eye on all of your progress. And look, if you want to follow her, if you want to see what she's up to, if you want to keep up with all of the projects she's working on, the things that she's hoping to produce in the near future, go ahead and follow her. Give her a like on this episode. Leave a comment. I'm sure she'll read them. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back this Thursday with a special Spotify exclusive, and I hope you have a great day.